Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of WNBL Live TV. It's finals time. Finally, after about 4 months of some of the closest competition we've ever seen in the WNBL, the finals are upon us. We've already seen the first final, the elimination matchup between Townsville and Sydney. The Flames were disappointed to go down to the Townsville Fire by 7 points in a thrilling encounter. We're going to have more on that, a full review of that match in a minute or two's time. But before we get into that, I'm going to welcome a very special guest to WNBL Live TV with Laurie Chizik away coaching the Victorian Under-20 state team at the National Championships. I've been lucky enough to be joined by the Opals and Canberra Capitals coach, Carrie Graf. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you've been a regular viewer of ITV over the summer, so you know about our format, and we just like to keep it very, very serious right throughout.
Am I meant to say yes to that? I'd love to say yes, but I'm a little bit busy with the two jobs I have, although now that we're out of the finals, I have got time to watch and enjoy the show, so I guess that's a good thing.
All right, well, obviously it was a disappointing season in many ways for Canberra. We'll have a look at the ladder actually now as it finished at the end of the season. Adelaide winning their fifth minor premiership. I'll spit that out eventually, Graffy. Bulleen in second spot, Dandenong, Townsville and Sydney making up the numbers. Bendigo and Logan still had chances to make the finals in the last round, but ultimately weren't quite good enough. And then Canberra down in 8th spot ahead of West Coast in the AIS. Before we get to Canberra, how would Bendigo and Logan be feeling? I mean, in particular, I suppose, for both of them really, Logan had a chance if they won both their games in the last week to jump up even as high as third or fourth. They played terribly one night, brilliantly the next. And Bendigo, well, when you look back at a couple of their close losses, it's hard to deal with.
Yeah, it is, but I think it speaks volumes for the quality and the depth of the WNBL this year. You know, each week I think more so than any other season, it was a coin toss for who might win the game. You know, and I think similarly with some of these finals games, it's not easy to pick. There's not clear favourites always, but I think that's, like I said, indicative of the depth of the league this year, and particularly with so many players back from overseas playing in the league. I think it's been one of the best seasons in the WNBL for a long time.
And after 3 grand finals in a row, 2 championships, the Caps had a bit of a down year this year. We know you had some injury problems, but I suppose you're also caught by the evenness of the competition, and you're still a developing team. Yeah,
look, I mean, I think it was lots of factors for us. You know, it was some roster things that happened early for us that were a little bit out of our control that impacted some of the way we'd put the roster together. Michelle Cozier being out early up to Christmas really impacted it with the new roster. You know, and I think then some different things. You know, we added some new players that took a while to gel. You know, the point guard position, Nicole Hunt had another wonderful season, but every week she's coming up against dual Olympian, triple Olympian, veteran guard, you know, and credit to the depth of the point guards in the league. You know, it was tough for us for her without a true backup point guard. So, you know, many things in our start. I mean, we just couldn't recover from that start. To go 1-7 was hard to overcome. But, you know, I think we showed flashes through the season of what we could become, but we couldn't get it done. And you're going to be different again next year. We know that Lauren Jackson, fantastic news. She's going to be back again playing for your team next season. And there's been a lot of talk about Mariana Tolo. I guess she's still in a waiting game. Will she stay and play with Jackson? Will she go to Europe? Yeah, lots of factors, and it often takes time. I mean, you know, with a lot of those young players, they have their targets set on certain things. You know, they want to make Opal squads, they want to play as a pro in Europe or the WNBA. And it's just the timing of that for them. But certainly, you know, we've been aware since Tolo's been a part of our program that, you know, one of her goals is to play as a pro in Europe. Whether it's next season or not, we'll have to wait and see, and we'll flesh that out over the next month or two with her and her agent. All right, well, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. We obviously hope from a WNBL perspective that she stays here, but if it is better for her game to develop overseas, hopefully she can succeed there. But a bit later on in the program, Carrie and I are going to have a look at the Opal squad, which has just been released in the last week or so, the 24 named in the squad. And well, I won't get you to predict your squad here on ITV, Graffy, and we can do that off here, but absolutely. We'll talk about that. It appears you've got a pretty good opinion on it, so maybe you should coach the Opals. We'll see. I can do your job, you can do mine. We'll talk about it a little bit later on, but before we get into that, let's have a debrief about the elimination final, Townsville and Sydney. I've got to say, it was one of the most exciting games I've seen this year, and honestly for the last few years, and I encourage everyone to watch the replay on Saturday afternoon on ABC TV. The Townsville Fire, 7-point winners. It was 76 points all with about 3.5 minutes to go.
And then they just finished off the better, I suppose. Mia Newley came out and played well. Rachel Flanagan hit a couple of shots, and they just had impact plays everywhere. I guess that's a true test of character and strength in a final.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and Townsville are playing. Certainly they played well against us up there a week ago, and they've found their feet in terms of playing who they are. They're playing small ball, they're playing up tempo, and they've got a lot of players that can shoot the ball. I mean, they shot the ball exceptionally well against us. They shot the ball exceptionally well
51% last night.
Yeah. And they're not all wide open shots. I mean, they've got some people that are making shots under pressure, but they're playing well as a group. I think they'll come into this semi-final with nothing to lose. I think they feel they've perhaps overachieved to this point to get where they are, and so they'll play loose. They're coming down here with nothing to lose, and I think with a lot of confidence finishing out the season as they did, to get fourth, to get a home elimination final, and to be in the semis.
So I know you spoke to Chris Lucas, perhaps a brief chat or only, but watching him during the game, I've never seen him as emotional as he was. He was riding every play. He was really intense. His body language was extraordinary. And after the game, he just looked like he played it with the girls. He was slumped at his chair. He's emotionally and physically exhausted. What were your impressions speaking to him?
Look, I had a quick chat, and I'll see Mark Wright tonight at Dandenong's practice, but he was obviously excited about their win and feels they've done a great job. So look, Chris is a passionate guy. He's been in the WNBL for a long time, and he's done a great job with that group. I think it's going to be, Mark Wright's a passionate guy that puts it all out there too. So I think watching the sidelines is going to be pretty entertaining on Sunday as well. And
just quickly, because we do have to get to the MVP interview with Jess Fold in a moment, but how hard will it be for Townsville? I felt like that was almost their grand final the other night. To come back against Dandenong, who are well rested and travelling down to Melbourne, how hard is that physically on the players rather, and mentally on the coaches as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough one to come from that elimination final, play on Sunday, fly down from North Queensland. But that team's well conditioned. Chris will put them in a situation where they practice lightly and appropriately at the right times. And as I said, they're coming down with no pressure. But certainly the advantages with Dandenong, home team, home gym, more rest, more preparation time. There's no question it's tough to get up from that fourth position. Not to say it's not doable, but I think you'd have to say Dandenong would go in as the favourite.
All right, we'll preview that in a little bit more depth in a few minutes' time. But right now, we're going to go to Jess Foley, who spoke to Rachel Spawn after the game. She was the best player on the court for Townsville.
Well, Jess, that was quite amazing. I actually got goosebumps because of the crowd's reaction. That must feel wonderful being a Townsville local at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the support this year has been unbelievable. I've never really experienced a crowd like this in Australia, and it makes it really fun to play up here.
That was a really great game to watch. Like, the score from both sides was quite amazing. The standard was so high, and for a final, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the league is so even this year, and every time you come out, you have such a battle on your hands. And tonight, Sydney stepped up again, and thankfully we're able to beat them for the third time this year, which is quite amazing.
Because we did have the stat that between you two, whoever was in the lead at halftime lost. So you changed that tonight, thankfully.
Glad you didn't tell me that at halftime. I would have got a bit worried, but yeah, as I said, we've had such good contests with them all year. I think they were up by about 15 in the first quarter the last time we played them. So, we're really happy. We're really excited, actually, to be in the next final.
And how are you feeling about your teammates? This was just such an amazing team effort tonight. Casey Lockwood coming off the bench. How was her impact tonight? Amazing.
Yeah, she does that all the time at training, so we've been waiting for her to come out. She's always so nervous and so full of energy before every game that she usually comes in and has a clanger. Tonight she came out and just absolutely tore it up, so proud of her and the way she played tonight.
And I have to mention Nicole Romeo as well. Fantastic effort for her. Great backup for Flanagan.
Yeah, she works so hard. She's probably our hardest worker, so I'm really proud for her the last couple of weeks. She hits huge shots for us, and she really pushes the tempo, and she's going to be a great player.
And we have to mention your own game, Jess. 21 points, 9 rebounds. That's 2 fantastic games at the pointy end of the season, so you must be wrapped with your own form at the moment.
Yeah, it's nice to hit some shots, but most importantly, it's really nice to be winning games again. We had a little bit of a rough patch after Christmas, so for the whole team to be stepping up and at different stages throughout the game, everyone hit some big shots, so it's just been great.
This is going to mean a lot to Chris Lucas. We can see how relieved he was at the end of the match. He's so passionate about his basketball, and he did say that you were his first on the list to recruit to Townsville when he came here, so this is pretty special for you too.
Oh, he might say that about everyone at different, in different meetings, but he had a bit of a tear in his eye after the game last week, and I saw him shaking a moment ago, so this really means a lot to him. And You know, he does so much for us as a group, so it's nice to be able to come out and win for him, you know, when he's been an assistant for so long.
And you did actually watch a horror movie before the match, you told me. So is that going to be your pre-game routine when all of you played so well? There's 4 of you watching that movie.
I do not recommend Hostel 2. Oh my gosh. I had the biggest nerves. I thought it was from the movie that I watched today because there were some really gory scenes, but I had the biggest nerves before the game because of that movie, so don't do it to yourself.
Jess Foley there, 21 points, 9 rebounds. It was another excellent performance from her, leading Townsville to victory. Spare a thought for the Sydney Uni Flames. They bow out. They started the season in brilliant fashion, 7-0, but then got hurt a bit by injuries at various times and ultimately met a too strong a task up there in Townsville on Wednesday night. So commiserations to Karen Dalton and the Sydney Uni Flames. All right, now it's time to catch up with all the latest injury news and gossip around the league with Catherine Murphy.
Thank you, Darren and Carrie. Well, Bulleen has suffered a major injury blow ahead of their semi-final against Adelaide at the weekend, with star Sam Richards ruled out. The point guard has missed the past 4 matches after tearing her calf in the Boomers' win over Townsville in round 16. Despite being expected to return to action in time for finals, she failed to train. Assistant coach Michelle Timms has said the club are confident she will be ready for next weekend. Adelaide star Jenny Screen has said she can't wait to get rid of the face mask she's had to wear since she broke her nose and suffered concussion against Townsville. However, assistant coach Simon Pritchard has said he expects the mask to stay to avoid any further breakages and confirms she's still training with it and will wear it this weekend against Bulleen. Despite struggling with injury for most of the season, Christy Harrower's involvement with the Opals will not be affected. She's undergoing post-season treatment for an Achilles injury but will be fully recovered and available for training with the 24-player squad when they assemble. That is good news for her and the Opals and of course our guest, Carrie. That's it from me. Back to you guys.
It is good news for the Opals squad that Christy Harrower will be available, and I'm with the Opals coach, Carrie Graff. And Graff, we'll talk a bit more about the Opals and your squad in a moment, but let's first look at this weekend's games. Adelaide and Bulleen first up, first against second. The Boomers looking to reach their 4th grand final in a row. It would be a remarkable achievement if they were to do it, but as Catherine just told us, if Sam Richards isn't there, I feel like it's going to be a significantly more difficult task.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sam Richards has had a wonderful season, you know, and the injury to your starting point guard, who's the veteran on that team, runs the show, can score, can defend. It's tough. You know, if they go into that game without her, you got to say that it goes straight to Adelaide in terms of favourites. Not to say they can't win, but that's a big dent in your roster, and Sam's critical for them. Well,
let's assume that she's not playing. What will Tom Maher and his coaching staff be looking to do? How will they be looking to try and to settle their lineup and actually create some advantages for their team without her there?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think one of the strengths of their program's been they've got some big perimeter players, and some of their sets equal opportunity in terms of cutting different people in. So I think, they'll try and attack perhaps Marino in different ways. Can they force some switches and try and run her inside? And, they're just going to have to play the point guard spot by committee a little bit. But having said that, Karen Harrington's had some big games for them this season. She's playing a little bit beyond her years, I think, in terms of maturity. And, she'll be key for them to at least hold up her end. But I think, Tom's always got something up his sleeve. He'll have some other people handle the ball a little bit perhaps and try and create mismatches that way.
I think you're right. Adelaide do deserve their favouritism. They had a shocker last week against Dandenong, but the week before they comprehensively trounced Bulleen, who were without Richards then and were a little bit under the weather with a couple of players who were ill. But I've got to ask you about the marquee matchup. Susie Bakovic and Liz Cambage, they're very different players. How do you see that going? Obviously last year they played in the grand final. Susie wasn't quite 100% fit for your team and Liz probably got the better, or at least Bulleen did. What do you see in this one?
Yeah, look, I think it's, Susie's in sensational form. I think, had she not been injured, I think she'd be a unanimous MVP for the league this year. She's in great form. She's a veteran. She's got a great head. She's savvy, and she'll take up that challenge. Having said that, Liz is still evolving and finding her feet as a star player in the league. So that matchup's key, and I don't think it'll all go down to Susie. I think Peter Buckle will use Bishop on her end and Bakovic and give her different looks. Bishop's lower centre of gravity can get in underneath her. Susie will use her length and her chest. So, those matchups are huge. And really, Liz is going to have her hands full having two of those different types. A little bit older, a little bit bigger, a little bit wiser. But having said that, it's a challenge for her. Can she step up and carry the load in the post for Bulleen?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a wonderful game. 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. The winner to go straight into the grand final, which will be held in a fortnight's time at the venue of course, whoever actually wins that game. If Adelaide win it, it'll be back at the Adelaide Arena. If Bulleen win it, it will be at the Cage in Melbourne for the 3rd year in a row. But I think Adelaide do have a firm grip on favouritism for that match and indeed the championship. The other semi-final, the minor semi-final, it's another knockout game between Dandenong and Townsville, 3rd against 4th. The teams have met already twice this year, Dandenong winning both of those occasions by 4 and by 9 points. We've talked already about the physical challenge and the mental challenge that Townsville face, having to back up. But what about we flip that around and look at Dandenong? With expectation comes pressure, and how do you think a team like theirs will deal with that?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be interesting. Again, some interesting matchups, and like you say, the pressure is on the favourite. There's no question, and they're at home. They're rested, all the things we spoke about before. But I think they've got some players that can handle that pretty well. Jenna O'Hay's a player that's calm, poised, and got great talent. I think she's a good head for their team. Kath McLeod's had a very good season. So they've got some people with good maturity. Phillips, their centre's off at World Championships with Canada, so they've got some people there, and they've got other role pieces that have been around a lot. Sam Richards, Downey, that have been around the league. So I think they're well suited to handle the pressure of being the favourite on their home court, and they're in good form.
Just want to ask about Krista Phillips. I feel like if they're to go any further, she has to play a big role, because if they get through this game against Townsville, who don't have a dominating big presence, she's going to be playing Liz Cambage and Susie Bakovic on the way to potentially a championship. How have you assessed Krista's season, and what do you think her strengths are?
Yeah, look, I think she's been a little bit up and down, but certainly been hugely valuable for the league. We need, with my Opals hat on, it's great to have players like that in the league that Liz Cambage can play against, at Bakovic and Bishop and Tolo and Penaluna and the like can play against in the post. So I think from a league perspective, it's great to have international centre players in our league. I think, like all players that are new to the league, it takes a little while to adjust to the standard of the competition, understanding and knowing the players and fitting into a new group. So I agree. She's a big key, and she's going to be key in the Townsville game. They're going to have their hands full size-wise. So, there's no question she's a factor for them and could be the definer.
All right, well, it will be an interesting game again. Townsville coming in with free spirits and really everything to play for. They've got nothing to lose coming into this. Dandenong with a little bit more pressure, but they are clearly favourites. In the 3 years that we've had previously of this WNBL final system, the team that's finished in 3rd, in this case it's Dandenong, has won each and every one of these matches. So they do go in as warm favourites on a 6-match winning streak. But the match will be on Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. You can catch that live throughout much of Australia, but check your guides to confirm the time on ABC Grandstand's coverage. All right, Graffy, now let's have a chat about the Opals, because the WNBL will be finished in a couple of weeks' time, but for you're already fully into planning mode for the London Olympic campaign. The squad was announced of 24. A lot of Australian-based players in it, obviously. We know that the likes of Snell and Bakovic and these players have hung around this country to perform at home this season. And as we look through the squad, there probably weren't too many surprises, but you've gone for a mix of youth and experience, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's probably a bigger squad than normal, but we've got currently 6 athletes still offshore.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of players, older players, that are coming off, niggling and long-term injuries. So for us to make sure we had coverage in each of the positions, certainly for training camps, and that people we thought could either legitimately have a shot at making this team, or in that build-up could impact our practices, our daily training environment, and could add something to our lead-up program.
So we know it's been widely reported that this is the first time that Basketball Australia has really got behind the program and provided some incentives to keep these girls in Australia and locked in as a group for a consistent team period of build-up to the games. I mean, obviously it's a wonderful thing, and you were part of the driving force behind that. But I've got to ask you, what are the other countries doing? Like in particular, the United States. I mean, are they still going through the WNBA and their usual processes?
Yeah, look, it's and Basketball Australia are strong supporters, obviously, of our national programs, both the Opals and the Boomers, and at different stages we've been able to get the group together. But certainly, part of this campaign was to try and maximise that opportunity. We're still working closely with Penny Taylor and Erin Phillips to get them committed to the program. But the other countries, that's where they're getting edge. Not a lot of their players play in the WNBA.
Yeah, right.
And certainly for the US, they have a 4-week break in their season, so US players will play 17, 18, 19 WNBA games, have a 4-week break. So essentially the US will have 2 weeks build up together, then into the 2-week Olympic campaign, back to their clubs to play 15, 16 games and finish out the playoffs. So You know, they're at a disadvantage in terms of their preparation compared to the rest of the world. We're at somewhat of a disadvantage because we have so many players that play in the WNBA. Having said that, that means we've got talent. But a lot of the other countries, the teams that we're up against, France, Czech, have wonderful preparation with all their athletes together.
All right, and just quickly, we do have to go, but I'm sure you'll be reluctant to individualise, but is there anybody you're really excited about in this squad? A bolter, maybe?
Look, I mean, I think we've known the bolters for a while. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think there's going to be surprises. I think as always, selection's tough. You know, the last few spots are, you know, you lose sleepless nights over, and good players or players that could be Olympians miss out. That's the unfortunate, you know, nature of the business. Someone misses out, someone makes it. You know, so for someone that doesn't make it, there's someone that misses it. So it's a tough one, but I think we've got an exciting core group.
All right, well, good luck with the preparations. It promises to be a wonderful lead up to the Olympic campaign, and then hopefully, again, you know, we can have a wonderful result at London. Well, Graffy, thank you very much, I should say, for joining us as well. But before we go, we've got to give a mention to the Basketball Australia Awards Night, which is coming up on the 26th of March. It's a combined WNBL and NBL Awards Night, which will be held at the Crown Entertainment Complex in Melbourne. Tickets are available through Basketball Australia, and if you can get along, it's a fantastic night where we see the crowning of the MVPs in both competitions, and all the other award winners are recognised, All-Star 5, Defensive Player of the Year, etc, etc. It's a fantastic night with some great entertainment, so get along if you can. But until then, Graffy, once more, thank you very much for being with us on WNBL ITV. Also look forward to seeing you on ABC Grandstand during the finals.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
It's great. Thank you very much to you at home for joining us, and we'll be back with you again next week as we wrap up the exciting action from week 1 of the finals.